At best, the alien abduction phenomenon is a terrifying, traumatic experience. At its worst, well, we think they sometimes take people and don't put them back.
I lost my mother and brother to this trauma. He murdered her, then killed himself.
These women are being used as human incubators, with all their children stolen away into the night.
A 6-foot-tall entity of blue-white light paralyzed me, then bent down and said into my ear, "Hi, Steve." It knew my name.
We hear gruesome stories of experiments and dissections. Imagine dying on a metal table while paralyzed, surrounded by alien faces. It's a real horror story. Welcome back, everyone, to our show, Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Leslie Shaw.
I'm Stephen Shaw.
And welcome back again.
And we're here to make sure that you open your mind.
Yes, he's a Quanto?
A Quado.
Yes.
Yes.
Stephen's being a
Gotta
Quado.
keep these things right.
You just saw the Rick and Morty episode that
Yep.
had that. It was really funny. We recommend it. But anyway, back to where our show. We wanted to ask if, moving from the Gnostic Network to a YouTube channel, we lost some of our viewership, and we were wondering if we could ask you people that if you love us, if you like the show, please subscribe to us. We'd appreciate it. Thanks.
And speaking of great shows, we're going to do a little bit of talking about our previous show with Mike Forrest.
Yeah, we had Mike Forrest on again last week. It just dropped last Friday. And it was a wonderful show. We're getting lots of positive feedback on it. And, we
got some really exciting news. Okay. For one thing, he's very much into the ancient Aztlan and the stuff that's coming out of Mexico.
And, he's alien carvings.
Alien carvings, yes. Yes, exactly.
His friend Joshua's.
The whole area is called Aztlan, but regardless,
okay,
yes. So they're buddies anyway. But they showed one of the recent finds with the funerary jar that they found pieces of carbon, that were in this like at 15 foot deep in the excavation.
Right. So it had like a human organ in it at some point.
Yeah, at one point, and they took it to the best labs in the world that do analyzing of carbon that's either like the indigenous carbon that's around something in the soil, and also stuff that is found in relics. And they have different dating methods. And this carbon that's found inside this funerary jar is dating accurately to up to 38,000 years ago. This is the Ajiji people that had a presence, just like Sitchin said, in the New World. And Leslie's going to show you.
The Anunnaki, yes. So we bought one of these pieces, and according to Mike, this is at least 8,000 years old.
Minimum.
And as you can see, it's got these wonderful, there's this little shrimp guy over here, you can see. Mm-hmm. And these alien faces. And on the back, there's a little spaceship with a tail.
At the bottom.
Yeah,
at the bottom, you can see it.
Bottom there.
And if you turn it back around again, you can see at the very top, there's a shooting star or a comet going across the sky.
Actually, watch the show, because I have a close-up shot of both the front and the back.
This is a geopolymer, okay? This is stuff that we can't make anymore. And it's got what's called an enamel. Never made.
Yeah, we didn't have this recipe ever.
So this is it's confirming what we've been saying, all the stuff. And I highly recommend that if you want to learn what's really going on, watch the show.
And I think this all but finally kills the land bridge theory.
Yes, it really does.
We want to do a special on the whole land bridge idea, a show on it, because if you've ever read the book Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo, I believe it was.
Michael Cremo, and yes.
And there was another co-author with him.
There's a co-author. He was the main one.
Whose name I can't remember right now. But anyway, I read that book, and there are lots of finds of human habitation that predate the land bridge.
Hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even the Table Mountain area just outside of Sonora, California, where my parents and I built the house.
So we think this further validates Zecharia Sitchin theory that the Anunnaki had a presence in the New World. And that, and
the discovery of the Abzu, the underworld down in South Africa.
Yes, we want to talk to our next guest tonight about that. His name is Brad Lail, And I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. And he's the host of the very popular podcast called The Awakened Podcast.
Yeah, he's got a lot of followers, like 18,000 or something.
Yes, he's got a very big following, and we want to hear all about his early paranormal experiences and what he thinks about some of these latest finds.
Yes, let's get to it.
All right, we'll be back in just a few moments. Good evening. Are you wondering if the UFO phenomenon is real?
Are you wondering who is flying the UFOs in our skies?
Are you wondering if aliens are really abducting people?
Then you need to read this book.
The book is titled Who They Are and What They're Up To.
Find out the true identity of the aliens.
Learn a very brief history of the UFO cover-up.
Find out where the aliens are hiding.
Find out why our government is in league with them.
Learn about their bizarre hybrid breeding program.
Find out why their technology is 13,000 years ahead of ours.
The reference section of this book alone is worth the price.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw.
Now available on Amazon and coming soon in the Spanish and Czech languages.
And soon to be in English and Spanish audiobook.
With a new foreword by fellow author and abductee Karen Wilkinson.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw, now available on Amazon. And welcome back again, everyone, to our show, Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Leslie Shaw.
Co-host Stephen Shaw, hello.
And this is our wonderful guest, Brad Lail. How do you say your last name, dear? I forgot to ask.
You said it right.
Lail. Okay,
yes,
good.
She didn't fail with the Lail. That's good.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry. It doesn't get better with age, the brain stuff. I apologize. Anyway, I wanted to introduce Brad with, he's the host of the Awakened podcast, exploring the mysteries of spirituality, consciousness, and the unseen forces shaping human experience. With a passion for uncovering hidden truths, questioning mainstream narratives, the show dives into topics such as the paranormal, metaphysics, scientific anomalies, and ancient history. And as you guys know from listening to us, this is all right up our alley. And so we're thrilled to have Brad with us tonight. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been 2 years since I talked to y'all, and I'm really excited to, just have a conversation with you guys again. You guys were on my show. It might have been like episode 11 or something. I can't remember.
I know it has been a while.
I was trying to rack my brains because we were on a lot of shows, and then we've been doing a lot of our own podcasts. And I said, I think I remember.
Yes,
it's like it gets to be a blur sometimes.
Do you remember we were talking to us about the 33rd parallel at the time? We happen to live on the 33rd parallel here in Southern California. Yes, and it's sure enough, it's just UFO central here.
Yeah.
You know, we keep seeing them and our friends keep seeing them. We've done research into, like, I grew up in Woodland Hills, which, my God, just for your own edification. One of my friends I went to junior high school with in high school, my family and I used to go up to Sonora, California to build the house because we were builders that we were, up there in the Sierras, right? So I was gone for like a week. And during that week, which was mid to late March of 1974. 73, wasn't it?
74, because I was 13.
Okay.
So anyway, there was this UFO, this black boomerang-shaped UFO that was over the PE field for 45 minutes. The whole PE class, and these are 13-year-old boys, right? And they were sitting on the asphalt, just transfixed for 45 minutes. When's the last time you got 13-year-old boys quiet,
not to fidget,
and not
for
fidgeting for 45 minutes? The teachers went in, they got their Polaroid cameras, they took pictures, and this thing just kept on circling the PE field.
And we've only found one witness so far, but there were 30 odd kids out there,
plus the PE
plus
teachers.
The teachers. So we've he's on their alumnus websites, right, trying to find.
And
other witnesses.
It was in that time period that I saw my first UFO, which was this orange sphere that was moving horizontally from south to north at about 9 o'clock at night. And as I did further research, this was a common thing that was happening back in the 70s. A lot of people saw this orange globe or this black object. And it's funny because every place we've moved, even Sonora, California is one of the biggest hotspots for missing people and for UFO sightings.
So, Brad, did you ever, how did you get into the paranormal? Did you have a UFO sighting of your own as a youngster or?
No, ma'am. I had an awakening, I guess you could say. And I just started questioning everything. And when you start questioning everything, it becomes pretty clear that you're being lied to about a lot of things. I mean, and that's pretty evident. And as I went on to my progression, I went from just being like into conspiracy stuff going, oh, what was that? Because I was in the military and I got to travel. I used to be a photographer and I worked for an army general. So I got to travel all throughout the Middle East, been everywhere in the Middle East. And I would see these places that didn't make sense. And I would go, wait a minute, what's that? Like I would see in Baghdad, Iraq, I was with a guy who worked for the State Department and we were driving. I was in the military again and he was working for the State Department and he told me that he was a Freemason. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like 25 years old at the time. I didn't really know anything about any of that stuff. And then there was a giant, like beautiful, old world looking building there that we drove by. And he was like, you know what that is? And I said, no, sir. What is that? And he goes, that's one of the biggest Freemason buildings in the world. And I went, oh, that's weird. Like I thought Freemason was like kind of, United Kingdom and United States and all these.
Oh, it goes back to Egypt, I think, or something, right? Or
yeah.
Well, it's much deeper, it's older than what we know. And so that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And then after I got out of the military, I just remember looking back at some of those travels. I would go to places like Turkmenistan, which a lot of people have never been to. It's kind of like the North Korea of the Middle East. It's kind of like a dictator run society that people, it's weird because when I was there, it was like all these beautiful Greco-Roman buildings with these columns and these gold domes and these giant statues that look like angels or fallen angels or something. And they had this, it was just the most bizarre scene you've ever seen. Streets were different and all these other different things. And I was like, what is this place? It was like nobody on the roads whatsoever, And so I would go to these places and just be like, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, you don't hear about these kind of things in traditional history books. So after I got out, I started going back to college on the GI Bill. And, I started learning. I was also working for the same university I was going to. And I started learning about all these little things, like these little ways that colleges were kind of scamming people out of money, like reselling old textbooks and stuff, rewrapping them and selling them as their own versions of the textbooks. But really, it's just the same old content they just keep. So I was kind of like... I was gathering all this information and I didn't know what to do with it because it was just a bunch of interesting things that I think people should know. And I would reach out to people on different shows and podcasts. I even reached out back in like 2014 to Tucker Carlson. I just sent him an email. I'm like, hey, you got to look into all these things or this things. And, nobody would ever really pay me any attention. Nobody ever emailed me back or anything like that. And in 2014, I'm a social media guy. Whenever I got out of the military, so I was in the public relations umbrella, under the public relations umbrella in the Air Force. So I was part of the defense media. So essentially we created our own images. I was a photographer. We wrote our own stories. We made our own videos and we would submit these things to this centralized Pentagon system where people could pull photos from and videos and stuff like that. So I was under this umbrella. And when I got out, I didn't really know what to do with that because it's basically photography and public relations and all this stuff. And nobody really wanted to hire me. So I went and I got a marketing degree to accompany this. And then again, this is kind of another thing that started waking me up. I started seeing the way that, because marketing is basically propaganda. And that's basically what I was doing in the military was propaganda, was PR stuff. And so I'm kind of babbling on here, but I think that was sort of the genesis, I guess you could say, for okay, there's a lot of weird stuff and a lot of things that people don't know about. And I would reaching out to people and seeing all this stuff that was happening. And I have this social media background, this marketing background, this public relations background. And I would see all these things with these, and I won't go there on some of these topics, but there was big things happening for election time in 2014, 2015, those things. And so I would see a lot of things that social media was doing to suppress information. And I thought it was very important. So I was reaching out to everybody I could, but nobody seemed to care. And so long story short, conspiracy led me down to go, okay, well, if they're lying to us about all this stuff, then they must be lying about other things. And then I got really into, because I became jaded from the politics thing, because they're all friends. You know, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. They're all best buddies. They all hang out in the ante room together after these briefings, and they go on trips together. They go on trips to the Middle East together as well. They do all kinds of things together. So it just made me feel like we were in some sort of a theater, some sort of a play. And you know, and so I started looking into all this other stuff. And I've gone on Sam Tripoli's show a couple of times. He has a show called Tinfoil Hat. I'm sure you guys are aware of it.
Yes.
He always says things like, you know, conspiracy leads to spirituality, but I added the paranormal thing in there as well, because I think that just like Sam says as well, they already have all the power. They already have all the money. What more could they want? And so that made me really question, you know, like further, okay, let's look into other things. What's the biblical explanation? What's the paranormal, the spirituality explanations? And this is kind of the path I've been on ever since. And so, you know, like I told you guys before, I grew up on the 33rd parallel as well in the Charleston area. And then so that whole area is filled with all these crazy things. And I grew up in the National Forest, in the middle of the National Forest. And you know, after I was watching all these different shows and I was hearing about the 33rd parallel, people would kind of briefly talk about the 33rd parallel as if everybody knew about it or something. But nobody ever explained, what is it? What does it mean? What does it do? Why is all these things happen on this line? And so I found this map and I drew a line, and it's sure as heck, it came right across my house, right across my brother's house, right in the middle of the National Forest where I grew up. And so I started asking everybody back home if, by the way, can you guys hear me well? Is my mic okay? It's not sounding like
no problem at all.
You sound good.
Great.
The 33rd isn't the Phoenix is there, right?
Yes,
so the Phoenix Lights incident is one of the most famous and biggest incidents ever.
Yes.
And of course, Malibu and Catalina, which is a big hotspot for USOs.
Yeah, that's our zone.
That's our neck of the woods.
But I looked it up too. Stephenville was a big UFO incident place,
Texas,
and
right?
It's a little bit south of Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't know if you put it right on the parallel, but it's pretty close.
Well, I've actually,
as the spaceship flies.
Well, yeah, those things can go pretty fast, from one place to another. But I've kind of expanded my definition of what I call the 33rd parallel. It really kind of starts on the 33rd parallel north, and then it goes, in my opinion. Now, this is going to sound like a cheap way of saying this and kind of roping everything in, but it goes, in my opinion, to 33 south, which is like South Africa, New Zealand. It covers a lot of those areas as well. And it covers Peru, and it covers all the Mesoamerican areas as well. And what I have come to understand, at least in what I'm starting to study and look into, is that it's basically the warmest region of Earth that this stuff happens on. And there's a reason why it happens on this little band, this 33 north to 33 south, which is a big chunk of Earth. Obviously, it's like pretty much the lower half of the Earth. So, but I'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to, kind of explain some of those things that was happening on the 33rd parallel at my house. I was asking some of my family story, have you got any stories? And everybody said, no, I don't have that. I've never seen anything like that. So you seen any creatures? No, I've never seen any creatures. You ever seen a UFO? I mean, there was this one time I saw this light in the sky, but it wasn't really nothing. And then as I'm talking to people more and more, and I'm letting them know that I'm into this stuff, and I believe them if they tell me, they would open up more, and they go, well, they would whisper to me, hey, I got this story to tell you, man. I had this one time, this thing happened, and I was with my boyfriend, or, whatever the case is. And so a lot of people in my family had stories, like pretty much everybody except for me. And so I'm like, okay, I found this website called the National UFO Reporting Center. This was many years ago. This was probably 2018, 2019. And it's basically a website that's ran by one guy. and it's a .org website. It's like NUFORC or something like that .org. And this one is run by this one guy. So if you call the FAA and you see a UFO and you call the FAA is going to say they don't want to hear it, report it to the National UFO Reporting Center. And so everybody thinks that this is some kind of a government organization, but it's not. It's just literally a dude in like Washington who runs it. So
there's a good one that I found that you probably may not know about. It's called UFO-network.com/sightings. And it pulls up a map if you want. You put in the time frame from this state to this state, and you put in the area of the world that you want to see if there were UFO or unusual sightings in those areas. And what it will do, will take you to that part of the world, and it'll show you how many. Then you can click on the buttons, and it will give you descriptions, and then sometimes videos of the occurrence too. So that's a very useful tool.
Yeah, they're consolidating various webs,
and it's something that you can do
web databases together now, which is nice because
anywhere in the world, if you want to say,
like when we wrote our book, we just had to scan MUFON sites, scan.
This one's much more user friendly, much more.
Yeah,
and you can make your own reports too. They will accept reports.
Yes,
I wanted to mention, isn't Hawaii along the 33rd parallel as well?
I mean, by my new definition, yes, ma'am, but not really. Yeah. It's a little, it's southern. I mean, it's a little south, yeah. But I mean, I count it as well.
Yeah,
certainly. But yeah, that in the National UFO Reporting Center does the exact same thing you said, Stephen. You can click on little locations of reports and read these great stories from people, and I read one of these stories one time, and I clicked on my hometown. And I read one of these stories one time, and it was a guy who lived in my town that I grew up in. It's 1,000 people. And he had a video to a like a mothership UFO, and there was like little lights coming off of it and stuff. And and I did a quick Google search, and I found that there was a story from a local newspaper about this guy and all these sightings. And so I called my dad. My dad was still alive at the time. And I called my dad and I said, hey, man, what, you ever heard of this guy named so-and-so? He's from St. Stephen. This is where my hometown is. And he goes, yeah, that's the fellow that lives at the head of the dirt road. I grew up on a dirt road in South Carolina. And I was like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, man, that's right above our house. And I was like, what? Like, what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, I see that kind of stuff all the time. Just look, sitting, because my dad would drink a beer sitting and leaning over the back of his tailgate late at night at 12 o'clock at night, just looking up at the stars. And he said he saw lights like that all the time. And so it was just like a matter of fact. Yeah, it's right over our house pretty much. And I was like, that's strange. And again, that kind of opened me up to like really because this is over my house where I grew up. So it's like, this is pretty important to me now. I'm like, okay, I got to figure whatever the heck this is out.
So you were saying that kind of like in your early mid 20s, you started to have like an awakening as far as like, start to question. They say the question is the answer because, it doesn't make sense. But, you said you were in Turkmenistan, right? Turkmenistan. Yes. Did you go to Bishkek? Did you go to the capital?
Ashgabat is the
Ashgabat.
Ashgabat. Yeah. Yes, sir. I did. Yeah.
I always get that one wrong.
Is that near? That's like south of Uzbekistan, right?
Yes, ma'am. But Bishkek, I've been there before, but I can't remember.
Bishkek is Kyrgyzstan, yeah.
Kyrgyzstan, yes, I've been there. Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
There's too many stands,
I know them all. I just get those two crossed up all the time.
Yeah, he does know them all. Trust me.
Well, Kyrgyzstan is funny because there's a movie called Borat where he talks about Kyrgyzstan. He's from Kyrgyzstan. Yeah. So, but the country of Kyrgyzstan is not like that whatsoever. The country of Kyrgyzstan has pyramids. They have like this. There's a pyramid in the main city. There's like this palace that I can't even describe. That looks like something that you would see in like Washington, D.C. So everywhere I went in the Middle East, there was buildings like this. There was weird statues. There was these giant, this architecture that you wouldn't think that people who live in mud huts outside of that city would be able to create. A lot of these people in Kyrgyzstan live in yurts and stuff. A lot of these people in Iraq, they, and I say that respectfully. I don't mean any disrespect by how people are living. I grew up in a trailer, so I have I can't talk about how people are living. So
there's a rich guy at the top, and he's building the buildings.
Well, and so that's pretty much everywhere you go in the Middle East. You'll see these kinds of weird sightings, and you're just like, none of this stuff makes any sense whatsoever. But yeah, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan. I said Kyrgyzstan. Actually, it's Kazakhstan that has all those weird structures. Kyrgyzstan has more of it's the yurt place, and there's a lot of weird statues and stuff there as well. But I meant Kazakhstan when I was talking about Borat, just to make
they just changed their capital from Nur Sultan to Tisana, I believe it too. They changed. It was Nur Sultan for a long time, but just a couple years ago they changed.
Astana, right? Is the Astana Kazakhstan? I believe is the name of the
Tisana. Last I looked, it was Tisana.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
Astana. It's either Astana or Tisana, one of the two.
Yeah. Well,
so,
I mean,
do they have UFO sightings out there too? I sometimes wonder if it's only the superpowers that are being monitored by the UFOs so much, because they definitely monitor our military, we know. But I was wondering if, out in the middle of Kyrgyzstan, do they talk about UFO activity at all?
I'm sure they do. I didn't at the time. I wasn't into this stuff, so I didn't ask people, locals or anything like that.
Of course not.
I would imagine, but I would imagine there's a lot of those things out there in those areas, and there's a big reason why I believe that. And I mentioned that the sun being, that 33rd to north to 33rd south being the warmest region of Earth, because I have this theory that I've kind of put together over the last couple of years.
Ooh, tell us.
About all, where these things come from. Excuse me. And it's not just my theory alone. It's kind of a combination of different theories. I'm just kind of adding my 2 cents to it. There's a great book called the Ley Lines of the US and UK. And it's by a guy named, it might be Thomas Cowan and Anne Silk. I can't remember the authors, but they talk about so ley lines are essentially what we're talking about with the 33rd parallel, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of differing lines. There's a lot of differing opinions about what they are. A lot of people call them telluric currents. I do. I'm kind of one of those people, but I think they all mean the same thing. We just are giving different definitions based on our perceptions and our own upbringings and all these other different things. Maybe someone who is into ancient civilizations is coming into it at a different angle than I'm coming into it, because I'm coming at it from an energetic point of view, and they're coming at it from a historical, monumental kind of, these Stonehenges, these Aveberries, all these places that are these, menhirs, and there's dolmens and pyramids. They're coming at it from that angle, and I'm coming at it from a different angle. And there may be 50 other people coming at it from different angles. And Anne and Thomas, the people who wrote this book, there's a group of people in the UK who love dowsing, and they just take their dowsing rods, which are, basically there's a lot of different names for that. It's water witching. There's all kinds of different things that people use. But dowsing, there's some people call them spirit rods and all this other stuff. But it's basically you take 2 copper wires or
they just hold them. They kind of turn, right?
Yeah, and it's real. It's a real thing that really works. It really happens.
Oh yeah, I've done it myself. I used to use it in acupuncture all the time. I used a radionic pendulum from Great Britain, as a matter of fact. Out of birchwood. It's infallible, because the energies of a person don't lie. People lie, but the energies don't. Getting back to the menhirs and the dolmens and the pyramids, they were put there on these energetic points.
Yep, they're meridians.
To amplify those. They were there as tools to amplify those ley lines or those energetic points. Like, as an example, out here where we live, about an hour and a half away from us, is the Integratron, which is a very famous building that was made by
Van Helsing.
Right. Back in the 1960s.
No, Van Helsing. Van Helsing.
Not Van Helsing.
No, that's the vampire guy.
Anyway, so it was made without any nails, just with wood, and it was supposed to be as far as like an energy device to be able to, like, as far as like for time travel and that kind of thing. He was given the plans supposedly by somebody from Venus, which that to not be true, but that's okay. But it was still by a bipedal hominid, a guy who looks basically very much like a Nordic. So anyway, and right next to it, within a couple miles, is Giant Rock, which is used to be.
It is George Van Tassel.
Van Tassel.
Sorry.
Yeah, right, Van Tassel. So so the Giant Rock is a really interesting story in and of itself. It's like, within 2 miles of this, this Integratron, and it used to be the world's largest boulder. Okay, that was just sitting on the ground there, right, until it partly cracked and fell. And there was this German guy during World War II that was living underneath the rock. He dug underneath the rock. He tunneled underneath the rock, and they thought that he was like a Nazi spy or something. He took a piano down there. He had a piano down there. He had his whole living quarters, right, and then he ended up getting blown up because he had dynamite down there, and the sheriff showed up, and they thought he was a spy, right? So they threw some tear gas down there, and the tear gas ignited
his dynamite, and
they
boom,
blew him up.
That was the end of him.
But it's just like all this stuff again is still like along the 33rd parallel, and they're on a ley line. Certain times a day, if you're in the integratron, on the top of the integratron, you can literally see green light going right through, like a straight line going through the integratron. It's built right on an energetic point.
And we have a friend, we've had her on our show a few times. She lives in Joshua Tree along one of these ley lines, and she thinks she's at a crosshair of two ley lines.
Oh, this is weird.
And because she, first of all, she can perceive it. She was able to perceive it one night. She actually see the lines, but also everything in her house is growing.
Right.
Things that shouldn't be growing.
Rock like and wood and
meteorites, antlers. Rocks, crystals, antlers, pieces of wood, metal sculptures, things. And they're not just getting bigger. Sometimes like
they're getting more detailed.
They're getting more detailed. Like the relief of the art is kind of pushing its way out.
And we've known her for a couple of years, so we've asked her to start documenting it, taking pictures, and
you can see it change over time.
We've actually seen the difference.
And so we think she's living on one of her alien. She's an abductee. Her alien handler actually recommended to her that she buy this house, and we think that they installed her there on purpose as kind of a caretaker of this place,
like a forest stall.
Yeah, where these energy paths cross.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love y'all, the way y'all think, the way y'all's mind works. I love the way that y'all are into all this stuff, and I think that those are like y'all are going to be important people in the conversation in the coming years. I think because of the way you think, because everybody else is sort of programmed to think this one way. And those who are swimming the opposite way now are going to be the ones, kind of leading the charge in terms of the conversation. We're going to be the ones that they're being asked about the alien files when they're released and all these other things. So I love the way y'all's mind works, and y'all are obviously looking into a lot of stuff, and that's very important. And
we wanted to show you something that will blow your mind. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
Can you see that very well?
Get it close really close to the camera.
Right. You see the release? See the alien faces?
Yes, sir.
And I'll make it bigger.
There we go. Yeah, that's much better.
It's upside down, my love.
All right.
So
we bought one of these from these Mexicans artifacts coming out of the central Mexico.
Right.
Yeah.
These things are being dated back to 38,000 years old.
Well, this one is dated back accurately due to the what's called the manganese patina, which only occurs because over time that you cannot fake it.
Yeah,
and the carbon, and so this one's coming back at least between 8,000 and 9,000 years old out of the
this particular piece,
Huejos region, which is near Tula area, near Teotihuacan in Mexico.
Yeah, it's about 100 miles from Teotihuacan. Mm-hmm. But these artifacts could easily they go back so long ago, and I think Teotihuacan's much older than people realize because of the work of Mark Carlotto. He says that all of the temples and structures in the Mexican pyramids, all of them align to the cardinal points prior to the last lithospheric shift, meaning that these structures are much older than previously thought. The last lithospheric shift we think occurred during the Younger Dryas comet impact that's 12,850 years ago.
Right.
So all of the Mexican pyramid sites, we have to push back the dating on them to prior to 12,000 years.
Right.
And these artifacts coming out of the soil there now. If you want to take a look at them later today, maybe or something, go to aliencarvings.com. That's where you can see hundreds of these things. They're covered in aliens.
And this right here, this is actually a geopolymer. This is something that they've analyzed that we can't currently make ourselves, and it looks shiny because they put an enamel on it to preserve it. And this is all done, like I say, they can date it pretty accurately to a minimum of 8,000 years old. So basically, what were the Ajiji people in the area, what were people doing between 8,000 and 38,000 years ago in the Americas when we weren't not even supposed to have crossed, the
land bridge, yeah.
All right, this is definitive proof what they're coming out of with that area. That yes, we were smart.
We can throw out the land bridge theory. Finally, right. I think there's been so many discoveries that have refuted it. What do you think, my dear?
So I think that going back to what we were talking about earlier, I'll come back to that because there was a few things we said in between there, but these ley lines are kind of like these meridians of the body, right? And are these lines of the body, and then you have access to these points where you put the acupuncture, and that kind of releases the energy or brings the energy down into you, right? And that's kind of what these I think they're portal locations, these stone hinges.
Yeah, I was an acupuncturist for 20 years.
Yeah.
I was naturally drawn to it. That's funny.
Well, I mean, I think that the body is just a replica of Earth, and Earth is and this is a fractal of something bigger and bigger and bigger. So who knows? We're probably living in somebody's body right now that's much bigger, in a fractal.
I had that thought when I was like 13. I had this dream that we were just like a cell inside of a giant that's walking around on another planet. Having our own little condensed world, which is our little universe.
Yeah. How do we know?
Solar system.
How do we know we're not just a cell?
We could be like one.
Our bodies have 7 octillion atoms in them, and each atom is kind of like a little universe in a way. It's like a mini universe. And so
and if you take the relative distances, like in a cell between the mitochondria and the nucleus and the different organelles that are in there, if you take the relative distance between them, it's like a mirror of our solar system.
The solar system, yeah.
It's really the relative distances are about the same.
Wow.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's kind of the stuff I get into on my show now. I mean, I'm definitely into like talking about UFOs and all that and disclosure and all these topics. I'm still talking about those things. I've taken the path of trying to figure out what these things are where these things are coming from. I no longer I'm not like interested in abduction stories anymore. I know they're happening for sure. Like I don't need to hear any more stories. I've heard enough. Like, okay, let's figure out where are these things coming from. I think there are politicians who are kind of they know about these things and they're using them in some way to gain advancements in technology and information and scientific discovery and all these things in exchange for something. And I think that in exchange is probably humans that they can create hybrids with in order to inhabit this reality that we live in. Because I don't think they can inhabit the reality we live in. And that's kind of where I know nothing about anything. I really am not very bright, but I once you start pulling at something, a thread, I'm like, okay, I got to dig into this even more and try to.
You're tenacious though. Yeah. Tenacity counts for a lot.
For sure. But I start looking into all these different, the ley lines. And again, if you kind of zoom out of Earth and you're looking down at it, you're looking like at a grid, like an energy grid. That's pretty much what you said with the body. That's what your body is as well. And
have you ever heard of the Richard Hoagland?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
He did work on something he calls fourth dimensional physics. But essentially he came up with, it's kind of like the representation of a Star of David. Except imagine it in 3 dimensions, like two tetrahedron triangles coming together. And at each one, and think of one of these inside our planet. And the points of these tetrahedrons are hot spots on the planet. Like he discovered this in Hawaii, where cloud chamber experiments in Hawaii were different than cloud chamber experiments in other locations.
Right.
They actually started forming hexagons, and he came up with the theory that when I think it was the Cassini probe that went over Saturn, he predicted that the top of the gas giant would have a big hexagon. The pole around the pole,
cloud storm,
and sure enough, we fly over the Cassini probe over Saturn, and there it is, a perfect hexagon. And all of the cloud giant planets, the gas giant planets, have them at the top. And so I think this energies grid that we're talking about is lines that come off those points connecting one another to each other. And I think that might be why I think maybe the UFOs are utilizing these energies to travel.
Yeah, 100%. I think they obviously are, because, and this kind of goes into what I've been getting into over the last couple of years, is like plasma physics and things like that. Because when you start to look at platonic solids and couple that with metaphysics and with physics and with natural sciences and all these other things, you start to see things a little bit more clearly. Stephen, you mentioned seeing an orb, right? An orange orb. Well, I have a theory.
Large.
I'm sorry.
It's very large too. It's
like a sun up in the sky going by,
Yeah.
Well, let me look up this real quick for you guys. You don't have to put it on here or anything. I'm just going to look it up. Noble gases colors. Okay, so that orange color you saw would be a neon. It would be neon. That's the color that the noble gas neon gives off, is an orange glow. Oh. And so when you start looking into these gases, these noble gases, which is totally interesting. You know how you have these Prince of Persias and these different regions around the world.
Yeah.
Like I think noble gases, I think people have been sort of worshiping these noble gases that are coming through these portal locations. And these portal locations, the reason I say that is, so it's kind of this takes a lot to get there, but it's a lot of jibber jabber. It's a lot of like saying these scientific words and things. And I've been trying to find a way to kind of narrow it down to simplify it for people who are not into, they just want to know like quickly, what is this kind of a thing? And long story short, I have been getting into matter and antimatter, right? We are material, we're matter, we're vibrating. The things that you see right now, the material that you see is vibrating. Everything has a frequency and energy, and it vibrates into this reality. So we are material, and there are things that are anti that. They're anti-material, right? And so that exists in this form, this void that's around us, that's like 99.965% of the universe is void. It's the distance between the nucleus of the atom and the orbiting the electron. Right. Is essentially what that is. And we exist in this like 0.0035% of visible light. So we're in this little tiny pocket of material that is vibrating. It's able to come into this reality. So this is a very special place, if you ask me.
In a very narrow band of
perception.
Very narrow band.
Yeah.
So that would,
well, it was, but as far as like the orange thing, it wasn't like I say, it was large, and it wasn't like this. It was just there for a little bit. It actually stopped when it saw me. Okay, looking at it.
How large would you say it was?
Oh, it was. I'd say it was probably at least about 50 feet across. Okay.
Well, long story short, I think it's sentient. It's the government calls it non-human intelligence, but I actually think that it's plasma. It's complex plasma.
Actually, because, I don't know if you've read our book, but as far as I'm concerned, from my experience with 4 generations
we have our whole theory
my family being tracked by the same being, O'Glegley, over from Germany, Scotland, England, and California, multiple people seeing the same entity over 120 years. Okay, they're interested in us genetically. My missing time, my brother's missing time. Yeah, they are our cousins. We call them cousins, and they live here because they are us.
We think that the human race
we have found
separated thousands and thousands of years ago, and some of them went underground. We think they went underground to escape the comet, the Younger Dryas comet. Yeah, we think 13,000 years ago on planet, the people were more advanced than we give them credit for. They had advanced enough astronomy, to spot the comet coming. Because there's like 1,200 separate flood myths, and they almost all start the same way, with a warning that the flood is coming. So somebody on this planet spotted it coming and warned everybody.
Right.
And I think some of them dug underground, and they took their tech with them, and that's why their tech is 13,000 years ahead of ours, because everybody on the surface was chucked back into the Stone Age. But they could have developed interdimensional travel and really are
Portals,
going to Venus, but in another dimension where the planet is livable or something. You know, we can't be sure. But one nice thing about our theories is it doesn't require wormholes or faster than light travel to be real, or time travel to be real.
Yeah.
You know, we think they're just with us, you know,
right.
and they have been for thousands of years.
That's why they saved my uncle's life. The guy saved my uncle's life post World War II when he was in the RAF.
And we think it's why they can breed with us so easily, you know.
Yeah.
Because if it was all in vitro fertilization that I was hearing about from abductees, I would say, well, then they could be anything. It could be genetic engineering that we're talking about. But they're raping their abductees. They're raping women and impregnating them this way. So in my opinion, they can't be anything but humans. You know what I mean? They have to be human in order to be able to just have sex and get pregnant, you know?
No, I don't think that they are doing things the same way that we traditionally know about, like you talk about sex and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that obviously you've heard about people having the mask. They've seen this smoke screen or whatever over the reptilian's face, and that reptilian's mating with them and all that. I'm sure you've heard all those stories before.
Karen Wilkinson wrote the foreword to her book, and she's definitely her handles a reptilian
and was raping her.
Right. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, I first of all, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing good. If you're doing that kind of stuff in the shadows, it can't be good. So
it ain't good. Yeah. It ain't nice.
So I am cautious when people say that they think that they are benevolent. I think that there probably are benevolent types of these things.
They're self-serving.
Yeah.
Yes. Self-serving is a better word. Yeah, you're right. Self-serving.
But they are as Stephen testifies, they follow families for generations.
They've been bugging me. Last time they bugged me for sure was December 1st of last year.
And they sometimes try and recruit the abductees into their program, to help them with their projects. And they call them star seeds, and they say they're part of this galactic federation, which I find very suspicious. That's right out of Star Trek.
Right.
It's like this is what I call a "what we want to hear" is.
Yeah.
Very much
that they're just feeding us.
They're all from the planet Pleiades and all the stars.
And it's not a planet. Pleiades is not a planet.
It's not a place. What I'm saying. It's I know.
I don't. I'm with you guys. I don't think that there are many different planets out there. I think that this is all one localized system that we live in, and it's being there's a system. There's the sun is very important in this system, and there's plasma all around us. Everybody will tell you that there's plasma. There's 99% plasma. It makes up the universe, except for this one planet that we live on. That's very strange. Why is this one planet not have plasma all over the place? And that plasma, basically, in my opinion, they call it the fourth state of matter, but they used to call this plasma ether, and that was the fifth element. And they started taking all that out of the conversation. And you mentioned the dodecahedron, right? Which was the crystalline structure that's inside the planets. Well, the dodecahedron is a platonic solid, and all of these platonic solids line up with the five elements. So all of these, they have different shapes. This is why at the center of a plasmoid, or the center of an orb, you see like a cube, or you see you see a triangle, or some kind of a shape.
A pyramid sometimes, yeah.
Right. Well, these are all platonic solids. And so when you start looking into these platonic solids, these platonic solids are like these dust particles, right? Dust particles meaning like they're, how when you open up a shade during the day and you see all these little flecks of dust flying around. I'm talking about those kinds of things. And what happens is those little dust specks have chemicals in them like silicate, or not chemicals, elements in them like silicate. And silicate acts as this computer chip, this analog computer chip, not a digital computer chip. It basically stores information. So it has this brain, right? This is why they use silicon in Silicon Valley and all this other stuff, right? So silicon, it's one of the most abundant elements in space, And then
it's one of the most abundant on the planet. It's like the third or fourth.
Second. It's like the second in the planet. It's in every mineral. It's in every rock.
It always forms a hexagon too.
Yeah.
Always forms a hexagon.
So this is, it's abundant everywhere. And plasma is also abundant everywhere. The ionosphere is plasma. Like a lot of people think that when satellites are shot up into space, they're like shooting into space, and we have satellites in space that are flying with us as we go 1 million miles an hour through space or whatever they call it, and which is completely crazy. But the
18 miles a second.
yeah, but the ionosphere, like radio waves, signals can't get through the ionosphere. They bounce off of it. That's why you point your satellite at an angle, and the receiver on the other end is pointed at an angle as well. So all you're doing is bouncing radio waves off of that ionosphere.
Bouncing a signal, right?
Yeah.
Deflects, basically.
Yeah. And so we can't get through the ionosphere. So I don't think we've ever been to space. We can't get through the Van Allen radiation belt because that's all plasma, like hot plasma. You can't get through that. You'd burn up immediately. And so, I think that we are kind of encased, we're kind of engulfed in this plasma. And there are there's this ionosphere kind of acts as like this firmament, and in my opinion, it extends from the 5 layers of the atmosphere in Earth's atmosphere, and then it extends into the magnetosphere. And that magnetosphere, that whole region, I think, is like the firmament you see from the Bible. It's like this thick outer shell that you can't penetrate, you can't get past, you can't get in. But the only thing that can weaken that magnetosphere is the sun, because the sun is plasma, and the sun is shooting plasma.
Solar wind. Slowly,
and if the core of the Earth starts to cool too quickly, or it stops rotating, that's what actually generates. That's what actually generates the magnetosphere, at least according to regular physics and
that
science.
Was what caused the death of Mars. Was it's a smaller planet than us, and it cooled more quickly, and so the magnetosphere collapsed, and it has no magnetic field now. So the solar wind was just able to just bleed the atmosphere off, slowly but surely.
So that's where
I'm sorry.
No, that was gonna say that's where my research kind of has led me. It's like so when we have these solar cycles that happen every 11 years, we have a solar maximum and a solar minimum, and a lot of people aren't looking into this, but they need to look into it more. So the solar maximum, there's a correlation. Every time we have a solar maximum, we have a ton of sightings. The 1947 sightings in Roswell was a solar maximum. And what happens is the sun on a solar maximum, what it's doing from the start of solar minimum until solar maximum, which is about 5 years, the sun starts to kind of twist. And then eventually it flips its polarity. And when it flips its polarity, it shoots these solar storms, these giant coronal mass ejections and solar flares, they come hurling at the magnetosphere. And what happens is it weakens the magnetosphere, and it kind of squishes it down a little bit. And that plasma that normally flows in through the auroras, it now flows in a lot. It's now flowing in at much lower latitudes, which is why we saw the auroras in like Texas and Mexico and places like that. Right. Because at the time we were having a solar maximum. There was 2024, 2025. It started November 2024, which is when everybody started seeing the Jersey drone stuff, the plasmoids in the sky, right? That was the start of solar maximum. And so what happens when all this excess plasma from the sun comes into our ionosphere, it gets it all excited. And you see all these like when the argon
gas gets ignited, the neon, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff is getting excited. All the gases that are in the atmosphere or in the plasma is heating up, and it's getting, super excited, and it's shooting off little photons of light. This is called air glow, right? This is what air glow is. And this is why you're seeing different colors and different balls of light shoot off at this. So what happens is you get anomalous plasma during these solar storms, and this anomalous plasma is what you guys are talking about that's been here forever. This plasma has been, it's an intelligent being that exists in this state of fluidity that basically can't form together unless the magnetic field is right, or unless there's a certain amount of heat that sustains it. And there are times of day where this, when the sun's going down and when the sun's coming up, this is the perfect opportunity. This is why everything happens at the twilight zone, in the twilight zone, which is that window when the sun's going down and coming up. And this is when it happens the most, and they're sustained all throughout the night because the sun disperses them back into their plasma existence. So all of these things that happen to you are going to happen to you from the time of dusk until dawn the next morning. And they basically go back away when the sun comes out. And the reason why that is in my opinion, that light is, it disperses them back into that plasma field is because there's complex structures that need to exist. So what you have is you have plasma, which acts as the body, and you need the silicon in it to act as a brain. And so what you get is you get this crystal lattice that's inside this plasma that starts to form whenever these things form together. And how this happens is as the sun's going down, so you got to think about the sun as this giant permanent magnet and Earth as a giant permanent magnet. And if you look at it like two permanent magnets, what happens when you drag a permanent magnet across another permanent magnet? It creates
both north or south. They
either attract or repel.
Or they repel, one of the two.
Well, what you get during you're creating a changing magnetic field, and what you're getting with that is you're getting induction, which creates an electrical current.
You're talking about bipolar.
Yeah, so this electrical current basically ignites this plasma. This dust, this space dust, the silicate that's flying all around, that plasma wants to form together, so it quickly attracts as fast as it can to this silicon, which is the brain. And then you enter in these noble gases, and these noble gases is what makes these things move around and fly around. So now you got a brain, a body, and you got kinetic energy, you got movement with these things. And this being, it's, you got to think that the silicon is constantly recording stuff, right? It's this dust that's flying around that's constantly recording everything. It's got a memory. And then you put that with a body, and now you got an entity. You get like what Jeremy Corbell shared a video of this complex plasma UFO. He's calling the jellyfish UFO. So when plasma is dispersed, it's called plasma. But when it forms together on dust, space dust, or silicon, whatever you want to call it, it turns into a complex plasma. And this complex plasma has all those crystalline structures in it, and these electrical currents that are basically flowing through it. And during certain parts of the day, you got to remember, like when the sun is out, it's constantly dispersing all this plasma back into the ether. When the sun's going down, this plasma quickly tries to form together into a complex plasma. This complex plasma needs a magnetic field to come into our reality. There's a guy named Winston Bostick who did a study on this in the 50s. And once he discovered this, basically the government put him under this non-disclosure agreement, and he worked for them for like the next 50 years of his life. But he was doing these experiments where he was shooting plasma into a magnetic field, and this was creating these little toroid, these little golden halos, essentially. Well, he shot one and it created a golden halo. Well, he shot two of them at each other. He noticed that these things wrapped around each other and started creating what looked like an orb. And so he was shooting all these different plasmas. He was shooting all these different plasmas into the magnetic field, and they were forming these orbs of light. And so this is where my whole idea comes from. And this is where I was telling you there's many different parts of the theory, because it's coming from a bunch of different people. And now all this, what I'm talking about now, is written, or all the stuff about Winston Bostick is written in a book called A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple, where he talks about all this stuff too.
And Stephen's brother
I've got to really ask you though. You said that you don't believe we've been into space. So are you considering that space is after the moon, or you consider interstellar space, which is only 100 astronomical units away? Which a lot of people don't understand. An astronomical unit is 93 million miles. So 100 astronomical units is about 2.5 times Pluto. So when you talk about interstellar space, it's still part of our solar system, and so is the Oort cloud, which is up to 100,000 astronomical units away. So we're talking about our solar system is about 1.5 light years across. Okay, so I want to ask you, what do you consider about space? Have we been to the moon? Have we been to the moon?
I don't think so. I think that's ridiculous. No, and actually, I met Buzz Aldrin one time.
Totally disagree with you there.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't think NASA built 15 Saturn V rockets just for giggles. I don't think so.
Yeah, and again, I I don't know enough to say anything other than what my opinion is about space. And to me, space is not the space that's out there like they show us on Star Wars and all this other stuff. I think space is the space that I'm talking about. It's the void. It's the dark matter. And then that's kind of what I was starting off my conversation with. Is,
and dark matter does make up a lot more of the.
It's more than dark energy. It's the biggest portion of what we understand at this point.
Yeah. So dark matter. So dark matter, so what happens is, like, during the Big Bang Theory, this is what scientists say. I'm just kind of, so I look at things from a Christian point of view too. So I'm coming at a lot of things from a Christian point of view. But
sometimes us too.
Yeah. So if you look at this though, if you look at this is what science says: matter and antimatter, they both were somehow created at the same time, but matter somehow gained an extra particle more than antimatter. So basically, these two things continuously annihilate each other, matter and antimatter. And as they annihilate, every time they annihilate, matter gains one more particle, and a photon of light is released from that explosion. That explosion creates a residue. That residue is dark matter. The dark energy is what I don't know how that comes about. I'm not smart enough to know that, but because I don't think science knows it either.
Right.
But the photon of light animates the material. It's what animates the matter. It's what forms all these crystalline structures and these planets and stuff that we're talking about. But what happens to dark matter? Nobody really knows. They say it just kind of goes away. I mean, they don't sort of say it disappears completely. They know it's there, but they don't know what it does, but it's constantly expanding. And so what
disconnected hydrogen atoms waiting to coalesce.
What is the most common element?
They're out there floating by themselves, waiting to bump into another one, and another, and then form a star. But
it creates. But the dark matter creates a gravity. It's what creates that magnetic gravity that kind of keeps everything together. So there's this gravity that holds all these 7 octillion atoms together in our bodies. That is basically this dark matter. And that's kind of what I was saying. There's a lot of people, I think, who worship the dark matter. They worship that because they look at it as, well, dark matter is 99% of the universe. So that's why they worship these dark. And listen, you don't have to take my word for it. They have a dark matter day at CERN and its own Halloween, which is October 31st, which is the start. Which is the start of the harvest season. And basically, all these abductions and stuff are happening around this time. It starts the dark half of the season, and it
does
ends,
seem to be like Stephen's family were experiencing December, January,
wintertime.
It's
Exactly, because it's
always the winter for him.
And so what? What's the common denominator there? Well, it's dark most of the time. They
darker.
Change, right. There's a lot more darkness during this. And then a lot of people commit suicide. I take it there, but
that's seasonal depression disorder.
Yeah. Everybody who's ever died in my family, and I've lost 4 best friends in crazy ways. They've all died after October 31st. And before that, like, hardly none of them died during the summer. Now I know people's family members die and stuff during the summer, but there's been a lot of things that happen. And so the pagans worship this dark half of the season. It's like the harvest. This is when they give their sacrifices to their pagan gods. These fallen
at the Saturnalia.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this dark half of the season is a very important time, which is when they have all this changing of the daylight savings times and all this other stuff, right? And then I believe it's May 1st, which is called Beltane. But there's the word ball in there again, right? It's like
the festival of Beltane,
Yeah, well, that starts the fertility part of the season, and it starts usually like May 1st or something like that. So that starts the light half of the year. If you ask me, that's the window is October 31st to May 1st. And pagans celebrate. This is very clear in all these different holidays that we celebrate. This is why they celebrate, and this is why they celebrate Halloween and all these other things. So there's something about the dark matter, the darkness, the void that people worship. And a lot of people who are into the science and all this stuff, they really think that dark matter is the creator of the universe, and so that's where that's why I look at things from a biblical lens. And so whenever I say space, I am not talking about the space that exists out there, where they allegedly have a telescope flying, taking pictures and sending high resolution images. I think to me that's crazy, but because I'm a photographer, and it would take so much power to do that, and then this thing is flying through space and sending perfect images back, and it's just really weird. That's the whole my argument there. But
at first, the Hubble was screwed up at first, and they had to go fix it.
and by the way, the moon mission, they were supposed to go to moon. Right? Hey, listen, they're going to keep kicking the can down the road with the moon mission. They're not going to really do it because they can't. They just can't do it. And so they got everybody hyped up for it. We're going to go to the moon again, everybody. And then what? Well, we
they've had some technical difficulties.
The Chinese, the Russians, and the Indians are all talking about the same thing too. So
now that they've discovered water on the moon, we actually can make with water. Now we can make fuel. Now we can actually make oxygen.
Hydrogen 3 is a very, very efficient form of power. So that moon's got a lot of that.
I wanted to ask you the Sasquatch Genome Project. You probably have people on your show that have seen Bigfoot and experienced Bigfoot. One thing I like about our theories too is it takes into account the cryptid phenomenon, because we think the aliens that are really our cousins are crossbreeding us with to make these bizarre hybrids, like Dogman and Bigfoot and
Bigfoot genome, Bigfoot genome came back definitively that 50%, at least the.
I was leading up to that. But I wanted to ask you, we were not surprised when the DNA on Bigfoot came back half human, because it fits in with our theories. But I was wondering what you thought about that information.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at with this whole thing that I'm talking about is this, I was talking about plasma a while ago, and I have this theory that nobody else is talking about of how these things come into our reality, and it goes pretty deep. I know, I don't know how much time we got, but I would like to kind of get into it.
Yeah, we're almost there.
But okay, so I'll give you the quick version then. So I was talking about the dark matter, how it makes up this space around us that we can't see. Well, there's tons of evidence out there that you can go look at where we have Earth to space communication centers and all this stuff. And it's like, who are they communicating with in space? All this. And so there's documents about the FCC going and asking Congress for the 33 gigahertz signal for Earth to space communications. So that's lockdown signal. Nobody can use that except for Department of Defense now. And that happened in February 2001. And they said they needed it because there was a big event that was going to be happening soon. That was their justification. You can read it in their congressional briefing where they were questioning about this.
All right.
And so 9/11 happened a few months after that. So I think that they are getting information from these things. But going back to the plasma, so this plasma, what I was telling you about these orbs, right? I was kind of trying to go through this process of how they come into our reality. They have to connect. They have to turn into this plasma or this complex plasma. But more importantly, they have to find a magnetic field. Now, this magnetic field is only going to be coming from certain regions of Earth where there's variables in the magnetic field. Okay, so what that means is like we're talking about your portal locations that we were just talking about a while ago. This is the X point where your friend, you said, has all this crazy stuff happening. That's one of these places, right?
Yeah.
It's likely, and I've done this 100 times at least now. I can pull up a USGS map and I can put you exactly where this person lives. I mean, if you told me where she lives, I could show you the magnetic anomalies that occur in that region. Almost every single time that there's a major event. I've done a couple episodes on this now, and I'm doing one on the swamp gas, the 1966 swamp gas case with J. Allen Hynek in Michigan. And this is the famous story of like swamp gas. It's kind of a joke now, right? It's like the punchline of like, people who have had experiences, they look at somebody like J. Allen Hynek as saying, this is just swamp gas. And they're going, you're an idiot because, you guys have encountered different things.
Yeah.
But I think
they had to lie to us, But
I actually don't think he was lying. And I'm going to be talking about that on my show here soon. because what did I just tell you? It's gas. What you're seeing, these orbs, you're seeing gas. You're seeing the glow of noble gas. So this complex plasmas, they're flying around. They form into a blob, and they're flying around looking for a magnetic field. When they hit this magnetic field, they turn into halos of light, these golden orbs, these golden halos. And then if multiple hit that same spot at the same time, they turn into an orb.
A swarm of them, maybe too.
Right. They turn into an orb, and this is why they can peel off. Right, is because they have their own little brains, their own little communities, if you will, their own little systems, and then they form together into one big orb. So what you're seeing, in my opinion, you're seeing like a bunch of different communities of entities, non-human intelligences together. So once they form into this orb and they hit a magnetic, or once they form into complex plasma and hit a magnetic field and become an orb, they are these electromagnetic balls of light. And you can see that's why they call them ball lightning, is because you ever seen videos of ball lightning? They're kind of floating all over. Yeah,
they're very mercurial, but they don't last long.
Well, the reason why they don't last long is because they need a constant stream of energy to keep them going. And I think that's the whole point of what these things are trying to do.
The one I saw lasted for at least a minute. And it kept on going from south to north, and it stopped when I looked at it and I saw it. So I know it was under conscious control.
We had a very bizarre orb incident in our family. Tell them about what happened with Philip.
Well, I don't know if he remembers about the coins that were magnetized on my pocket.
The orb with Philip, where it went through him.
Oh yeah, right. That was one that was stalking him. That was stalking him on his second.
It followed him. It was looking in his windows every night, and.
Well, it's intelligent. It's literally plasma is intelligent, and that's what people don't understand. Is whenever I'm saying this, when the government is telling us
on him,
that's part of our. That also people don't realize that there's an area of the brain. It's called the giant void. That's toward the center of our brain, which a lot of the mystics say that's the seat of our ability to be able to. Our seat of our soul. There's it's called a giant void inside the brain, which is literally this big blank black area. Which is when you meditate, that's the area that you basically activate your seventh chakra with. It's actually an area that they can't explain, but it exists. Again, it's black and it's a void. Okay, it's fairly big too.
This has been a fascinating conversation. We lost you for a second. There you're back. You're back.
It was plasma ball.
But let's find out what's going on with you. Do you have any stuff you need to plug, like a book coming out, a new show coming up, a big guest coming up soon?
No, ma'am. Can I just close out one thing with that plasma talk real quick?
Oh, of course.
I didn't get to the best part of it. The best part of it, in my opinion, is once this thing turns into a ball lightning or an orb, it's flying around, and what it's looking for is these free electrons and ions that are available. They're looking for putrefied ions from dead animals or metamaterials to pull from to create a body, like what you see an entity, you see a cryptid. And so these things, if you see swamp gas, if you see these orbs flying around in the swamp, they're going to be pulling from the putrefied remains of dead animals, and they're going to form into something. This is why you have different types of cryptids. And this is why these things stink, because they are and this is why they're called skinwalkers and all this other stuff, is because imagine ball of electromagnetic energy is flying around, and it's just kind of quickly pulling from all these things that are floating in the area, in whatever area it is. If they're in the snow, this is why you have a Yeti in the snow. And if you're in the swamp, this is why you see like a Bigfoot or some kind of crazy looking amalgamation of an animal. And I think that's what's happening. They're quickly trying to form
energetic coalitions of plasma, you believe?
Yeah. And so I think that
interesting theory, very interesting. I mean, you've given us a lot to think about. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so when they have human DNA, it might be from the remains, the decomposing bodies of humans that it's pulling from. Yeah. If that makes any sense. And so I think that they can just kind of shift into whatever's available to them. If it's in the sky, they can turn into, metamaterials that are available in the sky. And so
that's a lot more along the lines of what the Native Americans think about Bigfoot,
Right. And so, again, that's just something that a lot of people aren't talking about. And actually, that is what J. Allen Hynek was saying in the swamp gas thing. He was like literally saying that this gas is being released from these decomposing animals and vegetation, and it's causing these lights, these orbs, and it's coming out, and it's because there was a lot of fall leaves and stuff that happened, and it's going to happen in the springtime. You're going to see a lot more interactions with these orbs and stuff in the springtime, but people just heard swamp gas, like Gerald Ford and all these people, and they got really offended, because how could you tell us? They saw ships, and it's like, yeah, they were seeing swamp gas and ships. They were seeing both. So they just haven't seen, when they seen a UFO, it hadn't been formed. I mean, it had already been formed from that orb into that UFO, into whatever shape that is. So I'm going to be doing a show on that, and that you can find that again. That's at the awakenedpodcast.com. That's where my show is. All the links to my show is at. I am on Spotify. I am on Apple. I am on YouTube. I just kind of started doing YouTube. I didn't really care much about it because I got a pretty big audience on Spotify and Apple, and I've just pretty much been catering the audio towards them, and haven't been getting into the video stuff. But I'm going to be doing more of that, and the show's growing over there as well. So yeah, but lots of interesting theories, and one of the most important parts that I didn't get to talk about, which I'm doing a lot about on my show, is the connection to fault lines and volcanoes and all these different UFO encounters and cryptid sightings and all this. It's almost always around fault lines and fissures and streams, and I got a whole
that much is for sure.
Yeah, and I
utilize lava tubes of volcanoes,
tectonic stress and things like that.
To travel back and forth underground.
Grinding together of the different things like elements.
I don't think that they're traveling anywhere. I think that they are. I think the gas is released. There's this magnetite. It's funny because magnetite has all noble gases in it, and magnetite, whenever that sun and the earth interaction creates an induction or creates an electromagnetic energy, it releases, it unlocks that magnetite, and these noble gases seep out. Well, these noble gases seep out because magnetite is all in these fault lines. It's all in riverbeds. It's all in, like, literally everything. This whole profile that I'm creating, it has magnetite in it. And then there's like this perfect storm of things that are going on. There's chemicals there's noble gases being released from this magnetite, and it's coming out of these volcanoes. It's coming out of these streams and these waterfalls and faults and fissures and all this other stuff. And it's traveling to these magnetic fields. So any place that has a UFO, and again, I'm gonna show this with the Ann Arbor case, which is the 1966 Dexter, Michigan case for the swamp gas. The whole state, you could take a USGS map, which is called these magnetic anomaly maps, and you can overlay it on a pinpoint marker from Google Maps or something, and you can take the transparency and do the transparency, which is what I've been doing. And every time, the pinkest spot, which is the most magnetic area, always has these major cases. Like almost always. This is Roswell. This is Bermuda Triangle. This is Charleston, where I'm at. Everything. By the way, we're on a fault line. My family and I. This is why everybody has seen things except for me.
Us too.
Is because if you're
we're on the San Andreas fault.
Yep.
1 mile away, actually.
And you're going to have a lot of weird things happening because
Puerto Rico is a huge Puerto Rico off the coast. Puerto Rico is a huge plutonic upthrust of magnetite, and guess what? That's part of the Devil's Triangle. So,
yeah, exactly.
Bermuda Triangle or Devil's Triangle.
The magnetite is key because the magnetite has all this noble gas. There's noble gas in the ocean. There's noble gas in the skies. There's noble gas in the cosmos. There's noble gas
We breathe noble gas.
Right.
Part of what we breathe is, hydrogen, helium, and argon. So we breathe noble gas.
Well, yeah, noble gas is the most chemically inert gas. That means it can't be messed with, right? It's like, so if you're an entity and you want something to drive the gasoline to drive your ship, you want something that's not going to combust or that's not going to destroy itself. Essentially, you want something that's going to be able to sustain itself and kind of you drive the ship with this noble gas. And it's called gas. That's what it does. It moves things around. It sustains that electrical energy inside these orbs, and it kind of floats them from place to place. So
I think you should write a book about your theories.
I am actually. Yeah, I am. Thank you. Yeah,
I used to have an argon generator. I used to use when I was an acupuncturist. So to generate the argon gas, I'd use it on the different acupuncture points. It was really cool.
And exactly what I'm talking about. I think it has there's something to it for sure. And I just don't hear anybody talking about this. And so whenever I'm reading the report from J. Allen Hynek, who's a physicist, and he said that he was talking to all these different professors from the local, like I believe it was University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He'd hired 11 scientists, and he was asking them all their professional opinion, and they were like, well, this can happen and this can happen. So he was forming a conclusion based off of the bulk of the cases that were there, that the people he had interviewed, they had all seen these lights. They didn't see ships. There was only like a couple of people who saw like actual UFO ships. Yeah. And he did interview one or two of those people, but he didn't interview all of them. And so everybody was really mad about it. They were like, he didn't interview all these other hundreds of people who saw it. And he's like, well, I was only one man. And not to defend J. Allen Hynek, by the way, I think the government is lying to us.
I met his son. He's a sweetheart.
Well, his son was the one who created the thing for the Predator movie, the cloaking device.
I think it's Paul Hynek is his name. We
Hynek
met
Jr.
at Contact in the Desert, which we've decided. Are you going to be there? We decided to go this year.
I've been trying to make my rounds going to these different.
We're gonna have a booth there.
Oh, good. Again. We can hope to see you then in person.
That'd be awesome.
That would be very cool.
All right. Well, with that, we're at like the hour and 15-minute mark.
Yes, I'm an old lady. My back starts to give out about now, so I have to break us off. But this has just been fascinating, and thank you so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Anytime. I've had a good time, and thank you guys. And I appreciate y'all coming on my show so early as well. Y'all really helped sort of set the tone for my show. So I'm really grateful to you guys for that. And I'm happy to come on your show anytime you want.
Thank you so much, my dear.
All right.
You're welcome.
Cool. And I'm going to think about your theories. It takes me a while. Sometimes I hear something new. I have to like spend overnight like processing it. So I might have some questions tomorrow. I'll shoot them to you if I do.
Sure.
All right.
Anytime. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, my dear.
All right. See you guys.
Well, good night, everyone. And
good night, everybody.
And Brad, stay with us just for a second after. It takes a minute to buffer.
Yeah. Okay,
but everyone else out there in listening land, thank you so much for checking in and tuning in. And we thank our guest one more time, Brad Lail of the Awakened podcast. And tune into his show. It's all over the place. It's easy to find. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Leslie, you're kidding me.
What?
Our merchandise store is up?
Of course, my darling. All of our amazing concepts of shirts, mugs, and bumper stickers are ready to go.
No way.
Way.
Even my brilliant Egyptian concept that no one else ever thought of before?
Yes, that one too, and lots more. All at our new store at etsy.com/shop/abductions101.
Wow. I want a shirt and a mug and...
Well, Stephen, and all our curious listeners, just go to etsy.com/shop/abductions101 to see all of our unique designs.
I'm going there.